We'll be coming back to the board later on in the game with 6 subjects still to go. But now it's time to meet that very special guitarist that Mike spoke of earlier in the program, Brian May from Queen.
Right, so in this week's feedback feature, we're going to hear a few tasty guitar techniques from Brian May, the lead guitarist with Queen. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Mike.
First of all, let me ask you, where did this amazing guitar come from? Because it doesn't look like a shop guitar to me.
No, I made it myself about 10 years ago, in fact, when I was at school, just showing how old I am, with my father. And it was made with some special ideas in mind to get the effects that I wanted.
Mm-hmm. What sort of effects are those? I mean, because I know you like natural effects rather than effects for effect's sake.
Yes, I wanted to use the voicing of an electric guitar to its fullest, as opposed to just an amplified acoustic guitar. And a lot of things were built with that in mind. It was built to have a lot of sustain. So normally, if you play a guitar without much amplification, it'll just go, just does that kind of thing. If you turn it up, and the body is built right so that you get acoustic feedback, it'll sustain for quite a long time, like this. In fact, if I was standing near the amplifier, you would sustain longer.
You get a very rough sort of sound in it. I see that you're playing with a sixpenny piece, an old sixpenny piece.
Yes, I've always used these for as long as I can remember. They're very versatile because you can get a very sharp effect by using the serrations. And you get a complete contact with the string because every little touch you can feel with your fingers. And you can also use them straight, in which case they make quite a mellow sound. So the mellow sound would be like this. Whereas if you turn it sideways, it'll go... In fact, the guitar was built with that in mind as well. I wanted to get a large tonal range, so that's why we have 3 pickups. And I have the ability to change the phases of the pickups. So if I use 2 pickups together, it'll make a sound like this. And if I reverse the phase of one of the pickups, it goes very trebly. Like this.
And you can, I notice you're bending the notes quite a long way. You've got your strings very, very slack, it seems.
Yes, I do work with slack strings. Not as... there are limits to how slack you can have them, because as you were saying earlier, you get to the point where you can't play chords in tune. But I like them fairly slack so that you can push them up a long way, because that's a very important thing about an electric guitar. So
how high can you push those?
These will go up about a fifth. This particular string will go up a fifth or so. This is...
What about the other end of the scale, the downwards
The tremolo will take it down. This is a special design of tremolo which I put on and made myself, and this will take the strings down like this. On a good day, that'll go down about an octave or so.
You say you put your own tremolo on. Did you make that yourself?
Yes, I made that all myself as well. It's filed out of mild steel and balanced on a knife edge.
Obviously, you've got to be fairly precise when making these. You can't just stick them on any old how.
No, there's a lot of thought goes into it. You have to make sure that the thing can bear the stress of the strings apart from anything else, because guitars tend to bend unless they're very carefully made.
What about other techniques? I mean, is it possible to make your guitar sound a little bit like any other instruments at all?
Yes, depending, particularly in the studio, if you get the right conditions, if you put the microphone in the right place and you get in the right place relative to the amplifier, you can get continuous sounds which sound more like a cello. So perhaps something like this. And the conditions aren't perfect, but that's the kind of continuous thing you can do.
Cellists beware. This hissing, this almost phasing sound I can hear.
That is phasing, yes.
Yeah, that is a phasing.
I was using a phase pedal then, yeah, which is one of the effects which I do like to use on stage, because it gives the guitar a little bit more sustain, a little bit more depth, and it also has a nice top edge to get the clarity of the single notes out. The other effect I use, which you're probably going to ask me about, is the echoplex, which is in fact a modified echoplex, and it gives me, instead of an echo effect, it gives me a single repeat effect. So I can play a phrase and it'll come back at me, and I can play another phrase on top which can be in harmony or in counterpoint, or I can play a chord once and then play a lead on top of it.
So it's like building bricks, you just build up.
Exactly, yes, you can build up things. And it needs a lot of care, it needs a bit of playing around with to know the things which work and the things which don't, because you can get in a terrible mess if you play the wrong things.
I can imagine.
Obviously.
Well, Brian, it's been great to come along. Sorry we haven't got any more time, and it's been great to show you to show us some techniques. Maybe we could go out with you playing Frère Jacques or some such thing that you can build up and show us how the echoplex works.
Okay, this is the Frère Jacques thing that you mentioned can be done with just one repeat. and you play the phrase and it'll come back, so you'll see this. Basically, I play a note, and it comes back, okay. So I can play this phrase that goes... which is kind of fun. The full effect is to use, as I do, the other repeat as well, so I can build up 3-part harmonies, and that goes like this.
What can I say? Thank you. My guitar playing will never seem the same after that. We'll see you next week in another feedback feature. Meanwhile, it's back to Meg.
Thank you very much, Brian and Mike. Next week in our feedback feature, we're going to be looking at some new developments in guitars with Lowell Cream and Kevin Godley.